This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Tonight on The South Today, New Zealand's acting Conservation Minister has paid a visit to Dunedin's Wildlife Hospital. The annual Wild Dunedin Festival kicks off with a host of events across the city. And pupils of Waikaka School near Gore have welcomed their grandparents and special friends to the school for some special lessons. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Daryl Baser. Acting Conservation Minister Aisha Verrell has made her first visit to Dunedin as she steps in for Kiritapu Allen. Minister Allen is on medical leave, with Dr Verrell visiting Dunedin's Wildlife Hospital as one of her first jobs in the role. Getting up close and personal with some of the residents being looked after at Dunedin's Wildlife Hospital. Acting Conservation Minister Aisha Verrell is looking after the conservation portfolio, while her colleague Kiritapu Allen is on medical leave.
My goals in the portfolio are to make sure that we're continuing the excellent work that she started, make sure that the Jobs for Nature programs that we've been rolling out continue.
Prior to her career in politics, which came about at the last election, Dr Verrell was an infectious diseases specialist, dealing with malaria and more. She says Wildlife Hospital Director and veterinarian Dr Lisa Aguilar told her about infectious diseases affecting wildlife.
And that does seem to be some of the conditions that really affected the birds that are being looked after. So we heard about hoiho malaria, so I've treated a lot of malaria when I worked in Singapore and in returning travellers to New Zealand.
While at the hospital, she got up close and personal with hoiho penguins. In 1999, there were about 741 breeding pairs in the northern population. The 2019 estimate is just 265 breeding pairs, a 65% decline in 20 years. Minister Verrell says this is her first site visit looking after the conservation portfolio, and her background is helping her hit the ground running.
I feel I have a foothold in the scientific aspects and some of the of conservation just by being, I guess, scientifically literate, but there's a lot more to the portfolio than that.
The Department of Conservation says over the past 2 decades, the northern population of hoiho has declined more than 60%, while the southern population seems stable. And researchers agree there are a variety of factors impacting the population, including humans and climate change. In Dunedin, The South Today. The government has announced a sweeping raft of changes to New Zealand's health system. New Zealand's 20 district health boards will be replaced by one single national health body, responsible for running all of the nation's hospitals. All DHBs will be replaced by one national health body, likely to be called Health New Zealand. A new Māori Health Authority will be created with power to commission health services. A new public health agency will be created. With the Ministry of Health will be bolstered and will be monitored will monitor performance and advise the government. Health New Zealand will have 4 regional divisions. Each division will work with a range of district officers which will develop and implement local health plans. Te Pāti Māori, or the Māori Party, has welcomed this morning's news, particularly the announcement of a Māori Health Authority. But the National Party's health spokesperson Shane Rete is critical of plans to develop a separate Māori Health Authority, saying it could create a 2-tier system. The announcement of a National Health Service is the biggest change to the country's health system in our nation's history. More than 70 events are included in this year's Wild Dunedin Festival. The event was started in 2016 by Dunedin residents with a passion for wildlife and wild places. It's set to include budget-priced tours of the Otago Peninsula and Orokonui Eco Sanctuary.
Members of the Wild Dunedin Festival hold up a life-size cutout of a southern royal albatross to show how wide its more than 3-metre wingspan really is. The team, which includes former natural history filmmaker Neil Haraway, are now busy promoting their week-long festival, which encourages the public, young and old, to learn more about the city's wildlife.
Albatross really should be the official animal of Dunedin. This is the only place in the world where albatross nest on a mainland. So it's unique for people to be able to come here and go and see albatross. And one of the greater albatross, with a wingspan over 3 metres. And it's a new colony. Lance Richdale protected the first chick to fly away, 1938, otherwise there'd be none. And they've grown slowly since with a lot of protection from dock rangers and other, like the Otago Peninsula Trust. So it is part of what makes Dunedin such a special wildlife city.
While the festival does include special 30-minute express tours to see albatross chicks at Taiaroa Head, Haraway says other examples of interesting fauna in Dunedin can be quite small and hidden in leaf litter.
One of my favourite animals around Dunedin is the Peripatus. The Peripatus, also known as the velvet worm, is a kind of a strange prehistoric invertebrate that catches its prey by squirting sticky fluid all over it. And that's found in some places around Dunedin under the leaf litter and logs.
The festival will feature dozens of events across the city, including a special day at the Upper Botanic Garden.
I think one of the standout events this year will be the rewilding in the Botanic Gardens. There's a range of events, from a scavenger hunt for kids to Doc giving away trees to the City Council's tree planting guide. Information on trapping predators, which is important in preserving our native species and our both plants and animals. So I think that has the potential to be a really great event.
The Wild Dunedin Festival kicks off on Thursday with buses from the Octagon to Orokonui and entry into the Eco Sanctuary, all for just $5 per person. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A controversial plan for a Southland dump to become the premier landfill for the South has hit a hurdle, after a plan has recommended it be declined. The Southland town of Winton is facing plans for a significant expansion to its rubbish dump, just 3 kilometres east of the town. The dump's owners, AB Lime, want the current 100,000 tonnes per annum cap to be lifted. But environmental planner Michael Durand has now recommended the application be refused. He's concerned aluminium dross from the Tiwai Point aluminium smelter could go into the landfill. It's often said it takes a village to raise a child. In rural Waikaka, they're inviting senior village members to the school. The rural school near Gore opened its classrooms recently to grandparents and special friends to show visitors how education has changed since their school days. Remembering the days of the old schoolyard. Waikaka school pupils updating their grandparents and special friends on their technological knowledge last week.
We live in a community here at Waikaka which is so rich with more mature people, grandparents and their friends, and so they're able to come into our school and see firsthand what the kids do.
Acting Principal Christine Livingston says the annual Grandparents and Special Friends Day is an important event.
It's building strength within connections with other humans, basically, isn't it? So often we're in the busy life these days and we don't live down the street from our aunties, uncles or our grandparents, and so by offering this as a special day, today we had 3 different bunches or groups, if you like, of family came from Oamaru, some from Wanaka, and so for those people listening, well, that's a 3-hour plus drive from Oamaru. They make a real commitment to come and see what their kids are doing here.
As part of the day, pupils showed their loved ones how they learn using computers. Waikaka school pupils Erica and Quinn Briers say it was a fun day for a couple of reasons.
Because we made stuff and we got to go on Prodigy on our Chromebooks.
The schools held the event for a few years, with some families returning each year. Helen Bone attended as a special friend for children who don't have grandparents or for whose relatives weren't able to visit. She says this circle of life is interesting and sometimes seniors like her can learn from the youngsters.
Oh, I think it's important for the kids. The kids love it. They enjoy singing and showing their stuff and doing what they do at school, which is amazing, nothing like what we did. They can teach us lots.
Many of the visitors spent the morning learning about Scratch, a free online program which allows children to create interactive stories and animations. Some of the other events included making aeroplanes and learning about Earth Day. In Waikaka, the South Today. And still to come on the South Today, we see how long some Southerners have had to wait for an ambulance to arrive, and we meet some hopefuls vying for a seat on the Queenstown Lakes District Council. See you after the break.
Ah, TV, our favourite babysitter. But it can be tough keeping up with what our tamariki are watching. Luckily, the Broadcasting Standards Authority has made some smart changes to the classification labels. Ooh! Plus changes to the time of day certain rated shows will air, and awesome new parental lock features, meaning your babysitter's job is safe. Find out more at safeviewing.co.nz.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
Risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
No mai no, welcome back. More than 5,000 Southern people have had to wait for more than an hour for an ambulance since 2019. The union representing St John's staff say a lack of resourcing is becoming increasingly critical, and there have been mounting calls for the government to increase its funding. St John's says there is increasing demand for ambulances, and patients with life-threatening conditions have to be prioritised. But Minister of Health Andrew Little is refusing to be drawn on whether the service will get a cash boost in this year's budget. In a statement, Minister Little said the ministry is monitoring St John's performance. 3 candidates wanting to fill a vacant seat on the Queenstown Lakes District Council gave their pitches last night. Standing before an audience of Grey Power members, the candidates explained why they're the best suited for the job.
Following the resignation of John MacDonald, 3 candidates with contrasting qualifications are vying for the empty space on the Queenstown Lakes District Council. Businesswoman Emily Rutherford says she's definitely the underdog and wants to be the true voice for locals who don't often feel heard.
I truly believe there needs to be some change in what happens in Queenstown, and I'll show you anyway some of the things that inspired me. So, the first one, this is all a little bit relevant as well with Anzac Day coming up. So this is basically my great uncle, and he died in World War II. And this is one of my inspirations why I don't believe that the War Memorial Hall should get bulldozed down in the centre of town. I think that's something I really strongly disagree with. And yeah, so this is one of my big inspirations here. And so my ancestors were early settlers to Queenstown, and I truly believe there should be in the community representation such as the Memorial Hall to our early settlers and to the people that died in the war.
Consultant Esther Whitehead says she's running for council because she's caring, competent and has experience in governance and policy analysis.
Locally, I've led grassroots initiatives from the bottom up and the top down. Around climate action, I've heard about the anxiety from groups such as yourselves, and I've listened to the anxiety from our young people who I work with. I set up Sustainable Queenstown Trust so that people could connect on issues such as biodiversity, conservation and waste. I listened to issues and saw opportunities to help solve such problems, and I set up our food rescue programme here. So that actually takes surplus food from supermarkets and delivers it to people in food poverty. We have a huge issue here with people with food poverty. And in lockdown, this became an essential service and actually literally saved people's lives when they couldn't afford to buy food. I want your voice to be heard. I listen, it's what I do. Your ideas, energy and passion are needed. It's participation that makes this a great place. And the only way to turn concerns into progressive policy is that you all participate, and you already do.
Retired lawyer Phil Wilson says the council's doing well, addressing issues from the population growth of the past few years, plus the recent release of a draft spatial plan.
Infrastructure, huge cost to this relatively small community. We are due to spend over $1 billion in the next 10 years. $1 billion on infrastructure. I'm a firm believer in the visitor levy to help us to cope with that, and of course constant knocking on government door. Delighted that the government has come up with $85 million for us to do the bypass and the upgrade of the CBD. That is going to be a huge assistance to us to get those big jobs done.
Voting papers for the postal vote will be delivered from the end of next month, with a preliminary result to be released in mid-June. In Queenstown, the South Today.
And after the break on the South Today, a new report says migrant workers may not help the general economy that much. And we have a look at the weather for Thursday and heading into the weekend. See you soon.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
Feed me more!
Thanks for staying with us. The value of migrant workers and the recognised seasonal employer scheme have been called into question by a report which concludes they don't benefit the economy. The report from the New Zealand Institute of Economic Research for the Productivity Commission says low-skilled migrant workers do fill labour shortages. However, they don't necessarily increase overall productivity. Many in the horticulture and viticulture sectors claim RSE and migrant workers are vital, and without them, fruit and produce would be left to rot. But the report's co-author, Peter Wilson, says there is little evidence to show things like the RSE scheme are benefiting the country's economy. And now recapping tonight's top stories on the South Today. New Zealand's acting Conservation Minister has paid a flying visit to Dunedin's Wildlife Hospital. The annual Wild Dunedin Festival kicks off with a host of events across the city, highlighting our southern attractions. And pupils of Waikaka School near Gore welcomed their grandparents and special friends to the school for some special lessons. Time now for a look at what's happening in tomorrow's ODT. We welcome the Mr. Very Special Hayden Meikle. G'day.
Good evening, Daryl. Thank you for that introduction.
One tries.
Excellent. Only one story in town today, let's face it. Health. Government's big announcement today. Seismic, really. They're calling it the biggest change to our health system in a century. Lots of different things, but boils down to getting rid of the DHBs and forming a national health agency. Along with some sort of regional locality networks they're calling, or some sort of buzzword, so there will be some local things. But we are all over this. We've got 3 or 4 reporters working on it, and really getting the thoughts and reaction from a whole lot of people locally about what they think it means. And it's been mixed, it's fair to say. There are mixed feelings. There are lots and lots of people saying the DHB model was broken, hasn't worked, it's time to try something else. The idea of course, a national health agency, if it works well, fantastic. Gets rid of the so-called postcode lottery, so it shouldn't matter whether you're in Invercargill or Kaitaia or Dunedin or Wellington, you should be able to get the same standard of care. So some really interesting thoughts from local people, from GPs, maternity carers, cancer carers, the mayors of course, all have strong feelings about this and what it might mean for their district. So we'll be wrapping all of that up together with a good look into what this actually means, how the system will work. And we've got Mike Houlihan, our health reporter, really diving down into that to look at what these changes could mean. What will they mean for the new Dunedin Hospital, of course, is another big angle. We've got this very large hospital project beginning, and now there's to be huge structural change to the governance of health in New Zealand. So what does it mean for the building of the hospital? We've also, of course, got the Māori angle, so a separate independent Māori authority is to be set up for health. So we're talking to some local iwi about what that means for Māori. So there's just angles left, right and centre, but we will be breaking it down for our readers in a nice sort of punchy graphic as well. What does it mean and what can we expect to see if and when these changes do come through? So it's fair to say that, Daryl, will take up a fair chunk of space, and there'll be lots of good reading and lots of good feedback. A bit of other news, of course, is that there are other things happening. We've got a lovely story on Glenn Sutton, our local distance runner. He's either crazy or he's amazing, Glenn, I'm not sure, but he's planning his new run, and get this, it's from Milford Sound to Mount Cook. That's 548 kilometres. That's quite a long way. I think I'd last about 2 kilometres, and that would probably be me, Daryl. That would be spread over a week.
Not that one.
He's doing it to raise money for hospice. Great cause, great charity. He's an extraordinary man. He's the Forrest Gump of the South, I suppose. He's going to run and run and run. We'll have a map explaining where he's running from. And the big story in the regions is the QLDC sort of been wrapped on the knuckles over there, granting a 100-year lease for the airport expansion at Wanaka. It's been found that was in fact unlawful, so we've got some of the reaction and exploration of what that means too. So there's lots happening, but it's mainly all about that one topic, health.
Brilliant, thanks Hayden. All that and more in tomorrow's ODT. Time now for a look at the weather.
Tonight's weather proudly brought to you by Mole Map.
Beginning with the southern view, a recent rainbow captured just south of Dunedin. Looking at the situation, the westerly airflow increases tomorrow and Friday as fronts approach from the southern ocean. Expect a shift to much colder southwesterly airflows over the weekend. Travelling to the northwest of the South Island, moderate temperatures here, 17 degrees and cloud for Westport, and Greymouth is due to be sunny on 18 degrees. Skipping across to the northeast of the island, cloudy skies for both Nelson and Blenheim, still mild and 18 degrees for you both. Dropping down to Canterbury, the cloud lightens the further down the coast we go. Kaikoura and Christchurch are due for 18 and it's expected to be sunny and 20 in Ashburton. Moving to the southern towns, light easterlies brush across this region, carrying a few clouds for you all. Dress for 16 degrees in the Catlins and Balclutha, with 15 for Lumsden and Gore. Heading across to central Otago, light winds and some cloud for all over here. Wanaka and Queenstown aim for 18. While it's nominally warmer in Alexandra, you're looking at 19 degrees. Te Anau should reach 15 and may have some showers. Further north, both the light winds and showers reach Twizel and Omarama with 18 degrees. The light winds keep it a bit cooler on the coast. Expect clouds with your 18 degree highs for Timaru and Wamaru. In Dunedin, showers clearing tonight with southwesterlies easing. Expect an overnight low of 8 degrees. A period of sunshine starts your day tomorrow, but it'll be mostly cloudy in the afternoon. Expect a high of 16 and a low of 9. It'll be mostly fine with some high cloud on Friday with moderate northwesterly winds. A high of 18 and a low of 9 degrees. And in Invercargill, cloudy and cool tonight with moderate westerly winds and an overnight low of 9 degrees. The westerly winds freshen tomorrow with mostly cloudy skies and a few scattered light showers at times. A high of 15 and a low of 8. Cloudy with showers on Friday with a fresh to strong gusty westerly wind. A high of 15 and a low of 9 degrees. And that's all from the South Today team for this Wednesday. For the latest news from the southern region, head online to odt.co.nz and follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. In the lead up to Anzac Day this Sunday, we leave you with a demonstration of how to make your own poppies. Have a great evening. Ka kite anō.
To make an Anzac poppy, you'll need these, plus a black pipe cleaner or wire covered in black wool. Cut out 2 squares, each 8 centimetres by 8 centimetres. Fold both of them to make a smaller square. Then fold them again to make a triangle. Cut out the petal shape. Now cut a tiny hole in the base of each flower. Make a spiral centre for the flower and thread the pipe cleaner through.
This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.